Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Elyria City Council meeting for Monday, December 6, 2021. At this time, I'd like to have a moment of reflective silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. 2021. At this time, I'd like to have a moment of reflective silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Elyria Police Chief Pelka would please do us the honors in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everybody could turn off their phones, either put them on silent mode or off, would be greatly appreciated. Mr. Clerk, I have roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Mr. Sierra.
Here.
Mr. Oswald.
Here.
Mr. Baird. Mrs. Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Tollett.
Here.
Mrs. Simmons.
Here.
Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Mrs. Keys. Mr. Jesse.
Here.
Mr. Stewart.
Here.
We have 9 present. We have 2 absent, Mr. Baird and Mrs. Keys.
Can I have a motion for the excused absence?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah, second by Ms. Davis. Any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Are there any public hearings?
There are none.
Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sierra. Second by Mr. Tollett. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Remarks and reports from city officials. Mayor Whitfield.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, council members and residents. Just a couple things. One, I want to thank the Parks and Rec and all the team for the hard work they did to pull together the Festival of Lights this Saturday. It was a good event. I want to encourage residents to also go check out Finwood and take your family through there and see that display. As well as on our website, we've put 20+ Ely Life things to do in the city of Elyria. So I encourage people to go on that website, go on our city website, and look at the different things we have available for residents to do in the city. Also, just want to bring to your attention a couple things around the Arpa Funds. As you know, we conducted a survey when we first got the news of the Arpa Funds, and we had about 335 responses from our residents in ways they wanted to see those dollars invested, with the top ones being Midway Mall, downtown Elyria, and supporting small businesses and supporting nonprofits. And so I'm proud to report that that's the direction we're moving in. We've had some really good meetings with the finance director and also folks at the state about the eligibility of these funds. So we're pretty confident that we're going to follow through with the wishes of the public, and I'm excited about 2022. We got some cool stuff in the works, and I've enjoyed spending time talking to you all about it. And if any questions you have, I'm here for them.
Any questions for the mayor? No? Thank you, Mayor. Safety Service Director, Brubaker.
Yes, Mr. President, I have only one thing this evening, and that seemed to be the hot topic here at City Hall today was leaves. People are panicking due to the wind and whatnot over the last couple of days, whether we're going to be done picking up leaves. At the end of this week, and I'm happy to report that on paper, yes, the end Friday would have been the last day that we pick up leaves. We are still encouraging people to bag them, put them into curbs, but as long as the snowballs don't fall, we will continue to run trucks through the neighborhoods picking up leaves. So if someone's not going to bag them and they want to put them at the street, I would encourage them to do that over the next 7 to 10 days. And then we'll get around a few more times to pretty much the entire city.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Brubaker? Mr. Oswald?
Through you, Mr. President. I always forget what it's called, where we take our leaves and branches in over there by the police station. But is that going to be open till the end of December, that we can drive in and drop off our stuff?
Through you, Mr. President, yes, that will be open up through the end of the year. There'll be outstanding hours that they'll be open. I'll double check to make sure the website shows those operating hours, but you can still take them there for free.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Brubaker. Finance Director Plesky.
No report at this time, Mr. President.
Law Director Deary.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report. However, on behalf of my department, I just would like to once again congratulate Chief William Pelko. He's been chief for a little over an hour now. It's been going well, and yeah, that's all I have. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yes, it's quite a mess out here. So I would say, other than that, it's going real well.
All right. Well, with that being said, the Elyria Police Department, Chief Pelko.
So I just want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to be the chief of this wonderful city. I look forward to serving the citizens and council. If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call. I want to do whatever is best for the city and the citizens. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to lead the ladies and gentlemen of the police department. With that said, I do want to address a couple things. First, we're hiring. So we've got a lateral test and a entrance test that we're given right now. We're in desperate need for some police officers. So if you guys know any good men or women, have them go to our website. All the information is there, and we'd love to recruit them to be police officers. So that's my first thing. So get that out for me. And the second thing is I'm going to be putting a memo out tomorrow, a press release. We're going to start stepping up some traffic control. I ran our statistics for traffic accidents, and I want to say about 25% increase in crashes and serious crashes. So I want to address that issue. But before we do that, I would like to put a press release out and let the public know that we're going to be stepping up some traffic enforcement. So, and with that said, I would kindly ask if I could get dismissed. I got some family and stuff waiting for me, if that's okay with you, Mr. President.
That is very good. First of all, congratulations on your appointment, and we look forward to working with you. The ceremony was a great ceremony, all the support and love that you have out there for yourself. So we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Very good. Elyria Fire Department, Chief Pernesti.
It's Bill's night. I want to first congratulate Chief Pelko. It's an honor to be able to work with you. For Christmas, Bill and I both need brush at home combs, so, I just wanted to bring up a couple things. He talked about traffic accidents. I left with each one of you an update of our responses. Unfortunately, we had another fatal fire the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We have been incredibly busy in the last month or so, but we had another fatal. We had also, if you look at that, I left you some items that I can real quickly explain. You talked about traffic enforcement. If you look at that, I showed you the number of injury accidents that the fire department's responded to. That number has gone up from, I believe, at this time last year, we were at 306. Now we're at 360. So that number, those numbers I gave you for injury MVAs, It kind of reaffirms that the traffic crashes are up, but injury accidents are up. Our working structure fires, I think, are going to surpass what we had this year to date. Our run volume, our EMS calls are up almost over 500 compared to this time last year. And I also left you life care. We talk about the unfortunate COVID problem. I left you life care weekly sends me an update of their responses. And they're over 450 again last week, which you have on your paper. So it's not slowing down. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions for Chief Pernesti? Very good. Thank you, Chief.
I'm not cleaning that up either, Bill.
Assistant Safety Service Director, Ms. Calvert. Any questions for Ms. Calvert? Assistant Safety Service Director, Mr. Williams. Any questions? No. City Engineer, Mr. Schneider. Okay, Director of Community Development, Ms. Scott. I think I've got everybody covered. All right. President's referrals and remonstrances. Item number 1, Community Development Finance. Item number 2, Community Development Finance. Item number 3, Community Development Finance. Item number 4, Community Development Finance. Item number 5, Community Development Finance. Item number 6, Finance Committee. Item number 7, Finance Committee. Item number 8, Finance Committee. Item number 9, Finance Committee. Item number 10, Finance Committee. Item number 11, Finance Committee. Item number 12, Finance Committee. Item number 13, Finance Committee. Item number 14, Finance and Utilities. Item number 15, Finance and Utilities. Item 16, Utilities and Finance. Items 17 through 20 received and placed on file in the clerk's office. Petitions and remonstrances from council members.
There are none.
Petitions and remonstrances from the lobby.
We have several. Janine Donaldson, 318 West Avenue, Elyria. Follow-up to racism as a public health crisis.
Welcome, Ms. Donaldson. You can please state your name and address for the record.
Janine Donaldson, officially 1515 South Lakeview, Lorain, Ohio, unofficially, and for the past 40-some years, 318 West Avenue, Elyria, Ohio. And Chief, I want to say welcome to you, and your predecessors have done an outstanding job of taking care of our homeless shelter on 318 West Avenue, so I look forward to working with you. I'm here today, though, I'm making my rounds. I've already been to Lorain City Council, coming here, and then I'll visit the other councils and the commissioners who, in June, pass resolutions declaring racism as a public health crisis. I know that President Stewart remembers that I gave him a call and several of the other council people, and we were greatly encouraged by your swift action in passing that resolution. And when you passed that resolution, the YWCA pledged that we would be there with you, helping you put those words into action. So let me just tell you briefly what we've been doing for the past, well, actually it's been about 16 months, but 12 months we've been meeting with an executive committee. It's an executive working group, and it consists of folks like Tony Gallo from the Chamber, Ryan Aroney from United Way, Cindy Andrews Community Foundation, Cecile Rinder Nord Family Foundation, Tanya Boster with the Oberlin Bonner Center, Patty O'Brien from the Stocker Foundation, Fallon Peterson, Nord Family Foundation, A.G. Miller with the Community Foundation, Reagan Phillips representing the city of Elyria, not officially representing the city of Elyria, and Denise Douglas from Lorain County Community College. We have been meeting since January, and this month we are going to have our draft report of the recommendations that we feel are necessary to start dismantling racism in Lorain County. And in 2022, I'll be back again to show you a memorandum of understanding, not asking for money, but asking for your support, asking for ways that we can jointly tackle this problem. It wasn't a problem that got here overnight. It's not going to be something that goes away overnight. And it's also, you know, when we talk about racism as a public health crisis, people want to think that it's something that African Americans have to fix. We all have to fix it. And on that vein, the Community Foundation has been making free of charge for council members, so this is the invitation to Elyria City Council, to participate in racial equity training. Because of COVID, it's on Zoom, and these trainings normally cost $300 a person for a 2-day training. And I like to call it the gold standard of diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And so again, at no charge to City Council, the Community Foundation is paying for this, and I wanted to bring that invitation to you personally. So I'll get it to your clerk of courts with the exact dates and times, and happy holidays.
Thank you, Ms. Donaldson, for your efforts and the group's efforts, and we look forward to your presentation again in January. Thank you.
We have Mike Graga, 107 Loyola Drive, Elyria, loud music at the Doghouse Bar.
Mr. Graga, if you please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Mike Graga, 107 Loyola Drive in Elyria. At the outset, I want to say thank you to Chief Pelko for coming over and talking to my wife and I. My wife Maria and I were here 5 months ago regarding loud music from the Doghouse Bar on Antioch Drive near LCCC. Since that time, not much has changed. When there's a live band on Friday, the music starts around 8 p.m. We hear the thump, thump, thump of the bass in our house. Now, this is with the windows closed at the bar and in our house. The next song may be different. We hear thumpa, thumpa, thumpa. A smoker opens the patio door and the music is twice as loud. Same when they go back in. When the band takes a break, it's quiet again, and we think that maybe they're stopping at a decent hour. But it starts back and goes until midnight, sometimes 1 a.m., sometimes longer. The patrons leave and start their own music in their boom cars. Then there's drag racing and donuts on Antioch. We know all this because we're still awake. And then it's Saturday night or the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and it all starts again. So when we call the police, the dispatcher asks us if we want to make a complaint or if we want an officer to stop by. Then she says that the music isn't too loud anyway. But everyone tells us to keep calling the police and keep a record of all the calls, which you have on the second sheet of all the calls that we've made since May of this year. We're still not exactly sure why. We've tried to get a clarification of the city's ordinance for noise disturbances, but we can't seem to get to the right department. Our house is more than 100 feet away from the doghouse. They received a warning back in May, but no citations that we know of. Ironically, I play in a rock and roll band. When we play at places like the Veranda in Avon, which is in a residential area, we're done at 9 p.m. When we play at campgrounds in Port Clinton, we're done at 9 p.m. When I play a solo at Unplugged Brewery down the street, I'm done at 9 p.m. The places that we play late, like the Hooley House in Westlake, are not in residential areas, and they're not buildings with glass fronts and nothing inside to contain the sound. When we had the house built in 2018, we knew that there were businesses around, such as a restaurant, bank, dentist, kinder care, the veterans organization, and the college. But we certainly didn't expect to have to listen to someone else's music nearly every weekend. We mentioned 5 months ago that we were second-guessing our decision to build where we did in Elyria. And unfortunately, we'll be looking for a for sale sign soon. Now, this has been going on for over a year, and we're just not exactly sure what to do about it. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Greger, I'm sorry for that, the inconvenience. is the Safety Service Director, or I know the Chief had met with Mr. Greger, has there been any movement in regards to 5 months ago, or can you give us an update, or can we re-engage those conversations with the resident to make sure that we can kind of get on top of that with the bar as well?
Mr. President, through you, I know now Chief Pelko has talked to the Gregas, and I know the Gregas well from a number of years ago, but I can reach out to them as well. But I'm sure Chief Pelko has already discussed with them. He'll look into who's responded, and we'll start to issue citations.
Very good. We'll have a follow-up with you folks in regards to the status of everything, so sorry for the inconvenience. Mr. Tolet.
Through you, Mr. President, I have is it only when live bands play that the issue is at hand, or is it jukebox music also?
It's pretty much when the live bands are there, at least from what we can tell. That's when we mostly have the thump, thump, thump of the bass guitars and those are the things that we can hear. Again, in our house, with their doors closed, our windows closed, the white noise machine, etc. Hear that virtually every Friday and Saturday.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Sandra Schoonmaker, 212 Pin Oak Circle, Elyria. There was nothing here as far as what she was going to talk about. Sandra?
Please, you can come, please stand up and state your name and address for the record. At this time, I'll defer to Mayor Whitfield. I think he has a reason why you're coming up this evening.
For sure. So thank you, through you, Council President. So I've been meeting with a group of residents from Twin Lake Homes for a number of months now. And so I'm just going to ask them all to come up at once so you don't have to worry about, because I think they're kind of in order in terms of whoever's speaking or is set up to speak.
We just have two other.
Okay.
So if you want to have one, you're all welcome to speak. You know, this is the platform that you can use that on, and then we'll hear. But if Mayor, did you want to weigh anything more on what?
So this is just in regards to a couple matters that are really important. One of them being something we've seen around the city with the increased pricing on these shadow landlords, these shadow property owners who purchase properties in the city of Elyria. We never see them, and then they raise costs and prices on our residents. And so that's one of the challenges you'll hear them speak to, as well as how to deal with it on the short term and long term. And so, this group has done some amazing organizing work, and so that's it.
Okay, very good. If you could each, when your time come up, state your name and address for the record, and we'll listen to you. Go for it.
Good evening, Council, and Mr. Mayor, thank you for all your help in advance. You've been a huge help in progressing this forward. So my name is Melissa Sabine. I'm a resident at Twin Lake Homes in Elyria off of Albrecht Road. My address is 241 Twin Lakes Drive. I wanted to share a letter with you from one of our neighbors. Her name is Linda Dahl. Linda is legally deaf, and as such, she's asked me to come and speak to you and share her letter with the group. She was not comfortable coming in herself. She's physically disabled, and she would spend the majority of the meeting trying to read lips from a distance because that's her only ability to communicate. So Linda is a very good friend of mine and my neighbor, and I'd like to represent her tonight and read you this letter. My name is Linda Dahl. I moved to Twin Lakes in 2017 with excitement and with hope. I had to leave my current home at the time in Marsh's Landing in Elyria as it was taken over by a new private owner, and it became unaffordable on my fixed income. That new owner implemented a $45 monthly increase in rent, as well as the ceasing of my $35 senior discount. So I began looking for a new home. I had a small amount of funds set aside, and it would allow me to purchase a dwelling in Twin Lakes. And then I could use my Social Security to afford the $350 monthly lot rent, as well as my utilities, gas, groceries, medications, making ends meet on my fixed income. I had friends who lived in Twin Lakes, so I knew how much they liked it, and the affordability that it gave to them on fixed incomes as well. It was a known community, it was family-owned, and it had a great reputation. It had 24/7 security. New residents had to have a background check before coming and living there. Being a park for seniors 55 and up, I felt safe and I felt secure. With the sale of the once family-owned park to an investor group for the first time about 2 years ago, things have changed. Some changes were to our services, like we no longer have any security in the park, which as a 72-year-old woman, I no longer feel as safe as I did before. Even more so, and why I'm speaking to you today through Melissa, is the seemingly consistent and rapid rent increases imposed by Legacy since their first purchase, and after the second most recent purchase of another investor group. My lot rent has increased to $428 so far, with another increase coming in January of 2022. For new residents coming in to live in our community, the increase will be $725 per month of lot rent, in addition to the cost of the home they have to buy to rent the space. How is this predatory pricing okay? As seniors on fixed incomes, many of us, including myself, we may have to leave our homes. Who can sell them with a lot rent that is almost 30% higher than the average for parks like ours in Ohio, parks that have more amenities and more services than we do? I moved here because I could no longer afford to rent elsewhere. Now I own the home, but I rent the lot. However, I'm being priced out of my home due to these rent increases and unscrupulous business practices of Legacy. I will soon be choosing between food and medicine versus lot rent. How can this be okay? What will happen to me and my friends and my neighbors as these investor group purchases and rent increases simply continue? I hope that you'll consider my plight and understand that this is one of many of the same stories of the residents at Twin Lake Homes. Thank you for your consideration and your time in assisting us in stopping these predatory practices. Linda Dahl, 242 Twin Lakes Drive. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for coming up.
My name is Carolyn Simmons, and at first I was going to apologize for my voice, but I'm not going to, because I have non-essential tremors, and everybody at Twin Lakes, I live at 217 Twin Lakes Drive, and all of us there are senior citizens, and we are all at different stages of our retirement years. And I have been involved with Twin Lakes since 1988. We have had many family get-togethers, what we used to call the clubhouse. Now we have to call it the lodge. But with the original owners, it was always a place of refuge. My husband and I knew that when we retired, this was where we wanted to be. Now we talk about final resting places. Of course, we know that is the funeral home and the graveyard, but there's a lot of years before that happens, and we gotta live somewhere. We gotta have a life. Now the new people took over. My husband passed away in October of 19. The end of November, I got a letter from the office telling me that I need to clean the leaves in my yard. That was first. Then my driveway was flooded. They come, they wouldn't do anything. It was my responsibility. So I put in a sump pump on my own. Then I had a tree limb fall on my carport. They came, looked at it. I'm sorry, you'll have to figure out what to do that on your own. Now, you heard previous speaker talk about the dollars and the cents and the numbers involved. What about the human interest that goes here? Where do we go when our rent gets to the point where on a fixed income we can no longer afford to live there? We talk about homelessness. We talk about homeless shelters. Why do we get there? How do we get there? These corporates need to take responsibility for what's going on. And I thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for coming up.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President, Council, for letting us present our statements to you this evening. I am reading this on behalf of another member of our community. My name is Sandra Hurst Schoonmaker, and I do reside at 212 Pin Oak Circle in Twin Lake Homes. And this is on behalf of our neighbor, Connie. I moved into Twin Lake in 2003. The choice to move here was well planned and intended as a last move for both myself and my partner because we felt that this was a safe and secure place to live, that we were affordable for us together, and even after one of us was meant to stay here alone. This is no longer the case. Due to the new ownership structures that have taken place since February 2019, we no longer can feel safe and secure here at Twin Lakes, nor can we be assured that one of us alone could afford to remain here. Since February 2019, the ownership structure, an invisible investment portfolio, the first by Prudential Investments and the second by Blackhawk Investments, an arm of the Bluebird Investment Groups, all we have seen is reduction in services, amenities, and financial security, with little or no explanation and little or no caring or concern for the 55-plus old residents of Twin Lakes. Now, I am home caring for my partner who suffers from early dementia, and we had previously supplemented our income, which was a fixed income, with helping out our neighbors with lawn and snow maintenance at reduced prices, which was good for both of us. That is no longer sustainable, and the fear of having to leave here is real and getting greater and more worrisome every day. The new ownership structure sent out an informing letter, and shortly after that, another letter advising of a 7.9 increase in the rent for 2022, with zero additional support being given to the residents here. Worse than that, we have suffered from mandates from them that they will no longer maintain their own land, trees, or even the cement we are renting from them for our homes. The 40-year-old family ownership was just the opposite. We were not to maintain our trees. They did not even let us remove them, those that presented danger or were dying or otherwise needed removal. These new owners and managers refused to maintain the trees we were previously not even allowed to choose or maintain. They refused to maintain the cement and want to issue warning letters for cracks or other issues with their cement. We did not provide the cement, they did. We could not even get them to perform maintenance on their own roads, especially at our driveways, where their curbs are crumbling, causing damage to our cars and those of our guests. I worry every day about what is going to happen to me or my partner as this is allowed to continue. We have not qualified for rent assistance because together we own our manufactured home outright, which has up to now completely disqualified for any assistance. Yet the owners for the last 3 years have been gradually increasing the percentage of increases based on nothing additional for them. When the family owned this place, they had a full maintenance crew who came around every day to help maintain both public and personal spaces to keep this community so beautiful. The family ownership took into consideration the raises or lack thereof from Social Security and the economy in setting any new rent increases. Rents were reasonable and allowed us to be functional land tenants, creating the beautiful community you see. However, this will be ceasing to exist as they continue to exploit the seniors and lower income residents here in Twin Lakes. These predatory and greedy rent increases, service decreases, and I don't care attitude that the owners and management company have implemented will leave many of us homeless and or penniless.
Thank each and every one of you for coming up, and those who are in the audience that's where their place of residence is. Honestly, this is the first that I'm hearing of this in regards to the increases. I know Ms. Mitchell has been aware maybe of the last couple of years, but I know that unfortunately this is a takeover by another entity, and the increasing of the rates for the lots and the reduction of services, it's unfortunate based on that. And I don't know through a privately what more the city can do in regards to that. So, Mayor, I don't know what the conversations were had by you and the residents, but if you want to explain more about those dialogues.
Yeah, through you, Council President. So there's really two things that we're asking of this legislative body. One of them is to also lend your voice to these efforts as they're trying to advocate for themselves. So, you know, whether that's through resolution, letters of support, et cetera. But the other is exploring what kind of policies we could put in place and ordinances as a city. They've been doing some research about other communities that have passed ordinances that are really geared toward protecting people who are on fixed income from these sort of, you know, price gouging that's happening. So to explore from a policy standpoint what you're able to do. And then one of the referrals we made was to utilize some of our Arpa funds to provide emergency financial assistance. So as they're dealing with this battle, as all our residents on fixed income are dealing with these increases in cost to live, that we use some of our ARPA funds to provide that emergency assistance to them so that they're not disrupted as we're trying to figure out from a policy perspective whether it's us fighting the EPA to try to get these water rates down or whether it's us assisting these folks with the challenges they have with these private owners. So just exploring the policy and ordinance power that you all have, and then when these funds are on this referral, when we get to that, to allocate those funds so that we can support residents in the short term.
Okay. Has there been dialogue with the law director's office in regards to your recent findings or with their findings in regards to other communities and what we can do, or if?
We wanted this, we thought this was the right next step to get your buy-in on it, and then the next steps would be for them to meet with the law director, who you want them to meet with on that front.
Law Director Deere, if you want to weigh in, and then we can kind of.
Well, unfortunately, I'm precluded from giving any legal advice to any private entities, residents. I would not advocate that this body weigh in by way of a resolution, because unfortunately, at this core, this is an issue between, you know, it's a landlord-tenant issue. That being said, I would certainly encourage anyone who's got a problem with a contract or thinks that they're in an exploitative situation, that they would contact either the Attorney General's office, the Consumer Protection or Fraud Unit. Certainly may be ripe for legal aid. Obviously, I don't know the details of the lot leases that you folks are dealing with, but you know, this certainly may be ripe for that. So as far as any sort of resolution, obviously that would be a matter for council, but my advice would be that you would not legislate in this arena. This may very well, and this is something that the finance director would know more about as far as ARPA funds, you know, from essential services. We've done that for instance, emergency utility services and things like that, and I know that I believe is going to be coming up at the next utilities and/or finance committee agendas. But obviously, any further, I would need to take that under advisement.
Well, I think what we could do is, Mayor, is that you and I can have a conversation and maybe see what we can work through. And Mr. Pleska, did you want to weigh in on anything or at this time, or?
Through you, Mr. President, well, I could run this by the Office of Ohio Budget Management, but I believe the negative economic impact that's been caused has to be tied to COVID somehow.
Okay.
So I can look into it further, but I believe there's also a referral been made to finance to move the monies that we appropriate in essential services and move it to the small business program.
Okay. So, okay, Mayor, if you wanted to.
Just to clarify on that, so that referral, so two things. One, I think one of the requests is just for you to explore your legislative authority and what you can do to help these folks out. Sure. I think that's fair and reasonable. In terms of the referral piece, there's two referrals on there. In our ARPA request, so we put a grant application out for small business support and essential services. through this body, they authorized $500,000 in each category. For the small business request, we received over 1.5 million in requests, and then for the essential services, we received over 1.6 million in requests. So we initially thought that we weren't going to get that many essential service requests and we could move funds, but it looks like we're not going to be able to do that, but that'll happen as a committee to discuss that.
Yeah, so I think what we moving forward, and Mr. Oswald, I'll let you weigh in on it as well, but I think what we can do, the residents over at Twin Lakes, we can look into what we can do, maybe have that dialogue again with the mayor and see what opportunities are that if we can help out in any way, and then just start the conversation in regards to that. So there'll be open dialogue with that, and you know, the mayor and I and Ms. Mitchell is the representative over there in your ward. If we can kind of help in any way that we can, we will try to do that at this point. So this is the first time I'm hearing of it, so we'll see if we can come to some type of ways to help assist. But I don't want to promise something that we can't keep. I think we just need to start the investigative process of what we can and can't do, and if this is applicable with these funds. So at that point, Mr. Oswald, did you want to weigh in on anything?
Yeah, through you, Mr. President, and the question directed towards the mayor. When you were having these conversations, have you found out that what they're actually doing as being the landlord, are they doing something illegal by upping these prices? Is that something that you've looked into when you've had these conversations? Because, you know, I have some rentals, and you can't just have somebody rent for $500 and then all of a sudden you say $1,000. Now, is that legal? I mean, are there parameters that have you just had that discussion? Thank you, Mr. President.
Through you, Council President, I don't think it's a matter of whether something is legal or not. This is America, you know, and so there's a lot of freedoms we have. If you think about even the cost of insulin and, you know, how that went skyrocketing high, and that the part of the legislative body, a part of us as government, is to protect people from, you know, bad actors. So I think, you know, part of this is just the free market doing what it does, but I think part of our role is to protect folks so that it's not abusive and unethical. So I think definitely it's legal, but is it right? And I think that's where we need to look at.
And we'll have those conversations, and we'll try to see what we can do as a city, if we can help them out, or look into ways that we can pursue this a little bit, but this is just starting the process right now. So I appreciate everyone coming up. We'll try to work with you on it and see what we can come up with, okay? Thank you again.
That's all the petitions and remonstrances from the lobby.
Petitions and remonstrances from council members.
There are none.
Reports of standing and special committees.
We have one. We have considered the matter of a liquor license as requested by Dolgen Midwest LLC, doing business as Dollar General Store, number 22962, located at 141 Broad Street, Elyria, and the city of Elyria does not request a hearing.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, I move that this committee report be passed on its first reading.
Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Committee Report 2021-11.
Resolutions first reading.
There are none.
Resolutions second reading.
There are none.
Resolutions third reading.
There are none.
Ordinances first reading.
Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance approving the Plan Year 2022 Community Development Block Grant Action Plan, the 5-year Consolidated Plan Update, and analysis of impediments to fair housing choice update for 2022, and authorizing the mayor to submit the Plan Year 2022 Action Plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and declare an emergency.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, I move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declare an emergency.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-182. Sponsored by Community Development and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the city of Elyria to accept a donation of real property located at 1504 West Avenue, Elyria, Ohio, from Elyria Community Improvement Corporation.
Mr. Callahan.
Mr. President, move that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolet. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-183. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-50, known as the 2021 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-184. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance authorizing the Finance Director to create a new capital projects fund.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-185. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2016-6, known as the Salary Ordinance, to reflect the correct wages of certain physicians of the Fraternal Order of Police and declared an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-186. Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance ratifying and authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement by and between the City of Elyria and the Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council, Inc., Supervisors Unit, and declared an emergency.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second.
Second by Ms. Davis? Or Ms. Simmons? Second by Ms. Simmons. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-187. Sponsored by Finance. Excuse me. Sponsored by Utility, Safety, Environment, and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement to purchase redundant hardware for the water pumping plant through the State Ohio Purchasing Program or equivalent program and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second by Ms. Simmons. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-188. Sponsored by Utility, Safety, Environment, and Finance. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept funds from the Ohio Builds Water Infrastructure Grant Program to be used for the water plant study and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell?
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2021-189. That's all ordinances first reading.
Ordinance to second reading.
Sponsored by Community Development, an ordinance amending Section 1131.02 codified ordinances of the City of Elyria, Ohio, known as the zoning ordinance, to rezone real property located at Ridge Street, Elyria, Ohio, from R-MHH Residential Multi-Household High Density District to B-G Business General District.
I declare this ordinance has a second read. Public hearing scheduled for December 20th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Council chambers.
That's all ordinances second reading.
Ordinances third reading.
Done.
Committee calls.
Community Development requests the Law Director, Safety Service Director, Building Inspector, and Engineer on Monday, 12/13, 6 p.m. All items referred in the council chambers. Joint CD Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 12/13, 6 p.m. All items referred in the council chambers. Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 12/13, immediately following the joint. All items referred. Utility Safety Environment requests the Law Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Wednesday, 12/15 at 6 p.m. All items referred in the council chambers. And Strategic Plan requests the Mayor, Safety Service Director, Finance Director, and Law Director on Monday, 12/20, immediately following council. All items referred.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Sir.
Miscellaneous and unfinished business? Anybody? No? Hearing none, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sierra. Second by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. This meeting is adjourned.
Good night. Okay, give me that back. I'm sorry. That's just trash.